Listen and subscribe to the Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. Welcome, everybody. This is the edition of Blerdlines. We are talking Obi Wan, the new show that just wrapped up. With me, as always, is
your only Black Hokage, aka Cam Bigelow. What's up?
as well as,
This is Pastor Josh. Welcome.
and always,
Professor Doom. This is D. What up, everybody?
And so we've all watched the new Obi Wan series. It was about 6 episodes, I believe, right? 6 episodes.
Yes,
Yeah.
6 episodes.
6-episode limited series.
Yeah. So we didn't ask for an Obi Wan show, but we got one, and honestly, it was okay.
It was better than okay, I would say.
You know, I enjoyed it. Go ahead, Cam. Tell them why you mad.
I'm not actually. I'm just saying, in the pantheon of terrible Star Wars movies, the bar is really low. So it doesn't take much to like make an enjoyable series, which I kind of like lately because I don't need. I mean, the movies have left a bad. The recent movies, from Phantom Menace all the way up to the trilogy, the new trilogy, has kind of left a bad taste in my mouth based on the direction of some of the directors and some of the people who are involved or not involved, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, the original 3 still holds up. That's what jump-started all the stuff. In my opinion, I still think Rebels, Bad Batch, Mandalorian, and the only movie outside of the original 3, Rogue One, even though that had terrible writing for certain characters, stands out to me as some of the top tier Star Wars content. Now we just saw Boba Fett, which was a snooze fest. We went on a high with Mando, went on a Boba Fett snooze fest. We got Obi-Wan, and in my opinion, I was like, man, we already know this. But however, seeing that they made this show, it just proves to me that Obi-Wan probably should have been the main character of the whole universe because he's connected to everything. And overall, it did give a lot of good fan service to seeing, and spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, peak Vader, peak Obi-Wan, what fans were clamoring for, and I thought the action scenes were cool.
Yeah.
And just seeing that enough, because I'm not expecting much from Star Wars, right? Especially with the run of bad writing and something in a lot of the movies and the direction they did. However, I'll say this: Mando and Obi-Wan on Disney Plus has been really good. Plus the fact that it just kind of went out a little bit out of the Skywalker saga a little bit with introducing these other characters that we saw in other little tidbits. With that said, though, all of Star Wars does not make any sense logically.
Yeah,
we can get into that later.
Yeah.
So.
No, but
it had to be said, and it would be said eventually.
100%. I would say we didn't need this show, but we got it, and it wasn't bad. Like Josh said, it's a little bit better than not bad. It was actually like enjoyable in some parts. Like I think they did a good job of introducing other characters because, like I've said since Jump, I don't care about Skywalkers. We've done this to death. Blah 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 blah. But if we are gonna do it, at least enjoy the rest of the galaxy that's there. And so yes. I like that they showed, the network of people that were helping, the Jedi's like hide. I like that they showed different characters. Like it was a smart ass move to bring in the Inquisitors. That was one of the best things from Rebels. That freaking like that shit was dope. Like having
one of the old carryovers from like the old canon that Disney still
exactly
has, and I think that's really the principal problem with staying in the Skywalker saga is that they struck down so much of the post Empire stuff that actually worked and that was actually moving forward and still having a realized world and not just kind of cornered into Tatooine, all these little different desert planets that allows Disney to save money, so it's really, I think, much like Rogue One, Cam pointed it out, and with Obi-Wan, it's like if you're gonna stay in that, because it's still in the Skywalker timeline, because obviously Luke and Leia appear, Vader, all all the principal players are there. However, you show an aspect of that mythology, of that canon that fans would be interested in. What was Obi-Wan doing post Order 66? What was it like as a Jedi, specifically the most popular Jedi, in the galaxy? Vader, all these things they touched on, and to Deborah Chow's credit, she does a really good job of communicating the visual emotion through her direction and the blocking.
Amen.
Especially with the duel sequences. I thought, especially that last one, that was a really good mid cap between the duel Vader, pre-suit Vader, versus when we see Vader ultimately defeat Obi-Wan, who ages, incredibly up. In because the
Jedi life is hard. The Jedi life is hard. So that you age 20 years in 10. I'm just saying.
It's hard out here for
Luke is 10. God dang.
Well, and I would say overall, I would think like the takeaways I say on the positive from Obi-Wan was good was they did, just like you said, they introduced a lot of the world of it better. So like you said, like you have the Inquisitors, which were one of the coolest parts of Rebels, which is awesome. You have freaking OP Vader, like again. Me personally, I don't care anymore, but I'm glad they showed that level of it because it's just like, okay, like why is Vader here? Oh, he's literally through the whole show he's OP. It's not even. It's like the fact when again we're going spoilers, whatever. But when Reva tries to attack him, he's like, "Bitch, don't you know I knew this whole time that she was trying to kill me?" He's laughing the whole time.
We're gonna have to get into the logic of this whole thing. I mean, let's get the good stuff out first.
Yeah. But again, so I would say on that good part, like I think that the parts that they did good was one, introducing interesting new characters that you've only seen from like just the CG shows, which I thought was dope.
Let me ask a quick question. So the Inquisitors, they're canon. I only got introduced to the Inquisitors in the game Fallen Order. I didn't even know what they were until the game, and then I started going back into the anime. I was like, oh, these are Inquisitors. So I was like, okay, they've been around. But D, you made a point. You was like, that's canon stuff. So they've been written in books before, right?
Oh yeah, the Inquisitors go back well before Disney. Like that dates that's not one of their concepts. Vader's Inquisitors. That was like in the original what's called Legends now, but it was the extended universe back then.
Gotcha.
Yeah, don't get me started on a rant about the expulsion of the expanded universe.
Well, okay, so
there's some really good source material.
Josh, they reintroduced little tidbits from canon and Legends.
They're definitely doing that. Bad Batch, at the end of season 1 of Bad Batch, they introduced something from one of my favorite trilogy of novels. At the end, what my theory is, at the end of that mountain that you see, where the cloners go, where the prime minister of the race of people that created the clone army, that is from the Heir to the Empire series, and that's probably Mount Tantus. Mount Tantus, it was the Emperor's storehouse, like his weapons storehouse, like his R&D and storage. Make it, test it, it works, it'll blow stuff up, dope. Store it because I'm gonna need it later. That's where they took that dude at the end. That's a big sort of bomb drop from the expanded whatchamacallit. But
let me ask you this about that. Was that also the same place where Palpatine kept his Sith holocron?
Yeah.
His Sith holocron, his cloning technology, all of that. Everything.
Yeah. It's like a big, and I think that's why like we were talking about before, Bad Batch. I remember before, and I was kind of like, oh, Bad Batch is cool. It's like a little offshoot. But then by doing that little small tidbit, I was like, oh, they're like really trying to make sure that they're part of a larger thing. And I think that's the one thing when like they gave up a lot of the the canon stuff, like, oh, we're not going to do canon anymore, but then they're like picking and choosing what they bring in, and they're pretty smart about what they're bringing in, because all of that stuff actually adds to it. Because I think that's the one thing I would say for the both Clone Wars and Rebels, and Mando and all that. All they're really doing is reinforcing what was already there, and it makes it
Filoni's
better.
definitely going, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take that. He's definitely plucking big chunks out of the expanded universe. Very big.
And I think that's smart, because it's like the expanded universe actually gave the Star Wars universe galaxy made more richer.
Yes.
And so you got to see a lot of different layers that you didn't see with just the Luke and Leia and Vader like storyline. So it was good that now that I'm glad that they're taking pieces of that, bringing it in, and then fleshing it out even more. Because like I was telling someone else, I'm like, yo, if you watch Clone Wars from start to finish, the first 2 seasons is whatever. But if you watch the Clone Wars from start to finish, and then you watch Revenge of the Sith is actually like 3 times better. Because it gives you so much context to what's been going on in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And so, like, again, Attack of the Clones is like whatever, but you watch the Clone Wars series, they give you all this rich layers of textures and new extra stories. And
I went from being a Dave Filoni fan to being a worshiper. The way that he made that work at the end of Clone Wars, which is because Cam, I remember when you watched it, you were like, "Yo, you need to finish Clone Wars." I'm like, "All right, well, the first 2 seasons." He was like, "No, skip the first 2 seasons. just I'll tell you where to start. I'll tell you exactly where to start." He dropped me right in at the right spot, and it just goes up from the spot that he dropped me in at. But that ending, woo. Oh man!
And again, Daniel talks about that all the time. He was like, Star Wars is best told in serial format as opposed to movies. And when he said that, it really struck a chord, because I was like, you're right. Almost all the best moments in Star Wars are definitely on serial format. And there's and you can speak on that more, D'Angelo.
Well, I was gonna say it's just because you have such a sprawling world, you can't tell. The Clone Wars series, all it did was did what Lucas either refused to do, couldn't do, I don't know, but like investigating the Sith Lord, things like that. You didn't get those big those grounded story beats in the big story. He was only interested in telling the fall of Anakin, and so because of that, he missed out on a lot of opportunity to show what was going on in the ground. Another thing that happened, I think this novel was written during the Disney era, but I'm not entirely sure, that makes Phantom Menace better, is the Darth Plagueis novel. And
no, that was before. That was one of the last ones.
Okay, all right, thanks. Because I didn't know if it was before or after. So, but it still makes it. You can still buy it. I think it's part of the Legends. But that storyline just shows you so much of what Palpatine was doing, his Sith training, like how he actually managed to manipulate his way into the Senate, and just everything. And it made all of what we saw in the Phantom Menace make so much more sense than just being about the trade dispute. The through line to get to the trade dispute was actually given more verisimilitude, more detail. And so,
it was a lot, though, when you read it, one of the things that you told me was Plagueis was still alive during the Phantom Menace.
Yep.
Darth
Plagueis was still alive. In fact, there's an entire scene or an entire sequence in the book in which he discovers that Anakin is, that he feels Anakin's presence. He senses him, and he realizes why the Jedi have him, and he manipulates a meeting via Palpatine with Anakin. But I forget what happens. Somehow Anakin is like taken away, and they miss the meeting in general. But he's using his identity as Hugo Damasque, the leader of the banking clan, and so he's still alive during that entire thing. It is not until after Maul dies, I believe, that Palpatine kills him.
So the one thing about the interesting connection between Plagueis, Palpatine, and Anakin, who turned into Vader, Palpatine ignored one key element of the Sith lore of not training Anakin like Plagueis trained Palpatine, and he neglected him in certain aspects. Reason why he couldn't force him completely to the dark side. Like
Good point.
Plagueis had mentioned, he was like, you gotta train your student to the fullest. If you neglect him, you can't fully extinguish the good in him. And ultimately, when Vader picks up Palpatine and tosses, it's because he still had that good in him. But that it goes back to a warning Plagueis had told Palpatine early on. He was like, hey man, you got to pay attention to these students. Basically, he was like, if you don't train them, they may turn on you, and you have to get them really engulfed into the Sith Lord and make them really believe and get all that goodness out and make them a pure Sith. Because you see, overall, there were moments, especially in Obi Wan, where Anakin hesitated. You know, so I knew what you were talking about the whole Plagueis, because I saw a little fan theory and they were talking about he was actually there's a scene in Phantom Menace, I think, where he's not on camera, but he's like in the room adjacent to them while.
What?
Yeah, it's the scene where actually it is the scene. Thank you, reminded me. It's the scene where Anakin comes in looking for Padme.
Yep,
he's actually in the room.
In the room.
Yeah, he's in the room. But they can't see him because he doesn't want to be seen, because he's the Dark Lord of the Sith.
So he masks himself through the Force.
Yeah, but he's in the room when Anakin comes to see Padme, and her handmaiden turns him away. But in that moment, I think that was enough for Plagueis to sense the potential power, or the midi-chlorians, if you
Oh, Jesus. Totally forgot all about that.
Well, honestly, the novels make more sense. It's less convoluted and stupid in the novels, but it's silly either way, you know, with the midi-chlorians and all that stuff. But
the novels are solid, man. It's solid storytelling. They really, you know, I was trying not to go on a rant about Dead in the Expanded Universe, but they really, like, okay, so there's a lot of continuity errors. So what? Just go ahead, man. Just go.
Yeah. Have fun, and pick and choose what you like. Like
they didn't need to dead it. They really did.
Luke's like wifey, the twins. Like, there's so many things they could have pulled in that could have been super fun to just like. Luke was evil for like 2 seconds and killed billions of people. Like, just that piece alone. Like, have fun with it, you know.
And maybe use that for the sequels and give the reason for why Luke is in exile.
Yeah,
self-exile instead of this really dumb. I'm not even
on that. The new Jedi Order series, all like 10, 12 books, however many it was. That's just like a television series waiting to happen on its own, man. And it should have been done. It should have been done.
So
they should have done it.
So now bring it back to Obi Wan. The parts that worked, I thought Reva was a great addition to this like kind of pantheon of the characters, purely just because Black women, we all, you know, we rep and support. But I thought that was a good addition because at the very least they gave a fully fleshed out character. Yeah. And I liked that because at first it could have easily just been like, oh, it's a Black woman, she's evil, blah, 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 blah. But at least they gave her some layers, they gave her some depth. They even gave her a chance to have a redemption arc, which, you know, they're theorizing that she might get a spinoff series, which I think would actually be a good thing because honestly, to me, they need to pick on these. It's a whole fucking galaxy. We don't care. We don't need to know about Skywalkers and fucking Vader all day. Like, pick a random Wookiee and just make it happen, or like a random Ewok. Like, I don't care. Like, dude, just like
or
that was my
wind the clock back 1,000 or so years.
100%.
Well, this is why I feel like Rebels is good. I feel like Bad Batch is cool.
Yeah, Bad Batch
I feel like
amazing.
Mandalorian is cool. I also feel that Rogue One was a war story, and everybody died. Loved it. There was no happy ending. The only happy ending is that the plans got transferred.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. but it was a bittersweet victory. I as much as people like Obi Wan, and it's rightfully so for his fight scenes and fan service and whatnot. In my opinion, man, Obi Wan didn't make a lot of sense, man. I'm like, how does Reva survive 2 lightsaber stabs? How does you mentioned this earlier? Ben Kenobi, Commander Kenobi, is one of the most famous Jedis in all of the galaxy. Keyword galaxy. There's nobody that recognizes dude. He ain't shaved. He looks the same from the Clone Wars. He just aged a little. This is the future. You ain't got no wanted posters with this dude's face in, but you got holograms, right? Another
it's
thing,
a long
right?
time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's not the future,
bruh. So when
one person recognized him,
one person. So peep this: when they had the 2 ships, why they just didn't drop her off before they came back to that planet? Why they just come?
Baby Leia.
Yeah. Why they also didn't take the second ship and get the hell out of there before they all came there?
Yeah,
I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Why didn't Reva read Luke's caretaker when she was like, "Where's Luke?" She has the power to read minds. Like some of this, I'm just like, the logic didn't make any sense to me. I'm just like this. As much as like I want to like again the Vader fight scenes, the Obi-Wan,
all fan service.
Oh, Obi-Wan finding his path to not be Luke in those other movies, the old man Luke, and he was old man Obi, and then he got his mojo back, and we seen how powerful and how still crafty Obi-Wan was against his former Padawan. I thought that was all cool, but man, oh man, just some of like, as much as I want to like Star Wars, just some of these things just did not make
they did a lot of like plot hole type situations.
There were definitely some leaps,
and I would say that to their credit, and this is where the canon has been muffled, but to their credit, Force trained people can survive certain wounds. Like they can use the Force to heal themselves and keep themselves from dying.
Okay.
That is established in canon. Because I asked
that's fine. That's fine. But why didn't Vader kill her?
That's a better, more continuity gap question. Yep. Whereas like, why didn't Vader just kill her? And again, that could be it's hard to know because of the continuity fog of Star Wars.
Right, he was killing kids. He killed kids.
Right. But we don't know if the writers are suggesting that, okay, we're still seeing, like you pointed out, the cracks of good in Vader. Maybe he knew, he said he acknowledged that he knew who she was.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that he knew who she was. So again, between that and a few other moments, we see that he's not Palpatine level evil. Yeah.
Palpatine would have electrocuted her and enjoyed everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm maybe
it's a stretch.
I want to give Vader more credit.
It is a stretch.
Vader's sole purpose is to get to Obi-Wan. Vader's whole purpose is to get to Obi-Wan. Yeah. And if Reva is a way to get to Obi-Wan, he's going to keep her around. So that could explain why he didn't off her.
Yeah, and I think
that's
you're right.
Like,
but there's a level of
speculate.
Yeah, but there's a level of consistency that doesn't happen a lot in Star Wars. Where like, you're right. Like Vader's over here OPing fucking bringing ships down with one hand, and then like kind of killing someone that kind of betrayed him. It's like, wait a minute.
So that was the cool part, because we got the run on sight Vader.
Yep.
Like when Vader got surrounded, he 100%. Was like, "We got you surrounded." He commented, "He was like, all I see is a bunch of dead men." That's the Vader. I kept telling people, I was like, "Man, this we never got the malicious, cold-hearted, all-powerful Vader, except in Rogue One at the last scene.
Yep.
Where we saw how ruthless he was.
Straight rage and ruthlessness.
Straight rage. And I did like that they kind of confirmed the part where he was like, "Yo, you didn't kill Anakin, I killed him." Like I thought that was a great line.
Great. That was brilliant.
Like, that was a great line.
That was great.
To her directing, the way she kept the camera on him, and it was a close up as he's walking towards Obi-Wan, and then he slowly illuminate his face. Like it's so you see the monster underneath. I was saying to Josh that I don't know how many people have read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or know about it, but and I don't know, I'm not giving the writers more credit than they deserve, but there was a consistent parallel between Obi Wan Kenobi and Victor Frankenstein and Vader in throughout the story. Even in the first moment when he realizes he's alive and he's there, and he looks out and you could see the horror in his eyes, that he realizes like I created that. This is beyond my former student. Like I could have ended him, but instead I just made it worse. And fast forward to the next scene, I think Vader says something even to bookend that. He says, I am what you made me, or something like that. So there was a really, if intended or not, there was a cool sort of allegorical parallel between a literary parallel between Kenobi, Vader, and Victor Frankenstein and his monster.
Can we talk about James Earl Jones? Man, every line was delivered like it was a fresh, cold glass of water.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I'm still
James
glad
Earl Jones
we still have him with us to be
100%.
Yes,
100%.
Amen to that.
Because I feel once he transitions eventually, when when it's his time.
Oh, tears
I feel like I just feel like they shouldn't even, like, you can't do Vader anymore.
Yeah. And at that point, well,
I mean, they can use technology maybe, but
yeah.
That's a lot of engineering, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, others have done his voice, but there's no comparing James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. Even the fact that he's able to master what Vader Anakin is feeling and knows in that moment, like the sense of desperation, that obsession, you can hear it in his voice. That inability to grow beyond, he even shrinks as almost like becomes that careless Padawan again. Like you can hear that in his voice when he's fighting him. So and credit to Hayden Christensen in the movements of Vader.
I was actually kind of cool
to him.
Yeah, it was cool to see him come back, but the funny part was like they didn't even get age down. They was looking kind of old. I was like,
but props to him that I think that you're right. Like I think to Hayden Christensen's credit, he really made sure that his movements and how he was feeling, you could tell from his movements as well. And then James Earl Jones put the cherry on top on just to let you know how the gravitas, and like when he was feeling pain, when he was feeling like, yo, Anakin's been dead, I killed him, blah 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 blah. Like you felt that aspect. Yeah, and it was dope. So I think there was a good synergy between Hayden Christensen and James Earl Jones in terms of how they did that. Yeah. And I was surprised when they brought him back, but to Hayden Christensen's credit, he did a really good job of selling all of that, because in that final battle scene, or even the scene with Reva and like how that whole situation played out, you felt that like, oh, like, bitch, don't you know who I am? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, but even walking up to that chamber, just the quickness, you don't see Vader move quick. And when he is moving quick, again, like Cam pointed out, whoever's in front of him better move. Just go,
man.
Just go. I sent Josh that Fallen Order sequence when you meet up with Vader, and it's like,
you can't fight
mechanics. It's like you get one swing, you don't do anything, and then it's run.
There's
before Obi-Wan, the closest we got to seeing peak Vader was the comics, Fallen Order, and Rogue One.
Yep.
And we got to see peak Luke in the season of
Mando.
Mando.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or in the video games, Battlefront.
Yeah.
You get to play with Luke.
Yeah.
All black Luke. But again, I think for me, I was like, man, we never really got. And again, I'm gonna say, because I didn't do the due diligence and read the Legends comics but I read a few where there was some scenes with Vader versus Boba, like even when Boba was ruthless and they went toe to toe, and you hear that's how I knew about Vader being able to pull he pulled a Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was like,
That was insane. Yeah.
OP,
okay,
man.
this is another thing
OP.
that bothered me.
OP.
The fire. How come he just didn't go through the fire?
Everyone
Or
talks
book.
about that. They're like, he was like, "Oh snaps, there's fire! I can't cross over it. Oh my god, what am I gonna do? Oh,
Man,
that
I just
sucks."
seen you pull a ship down.
It's a consistency. You're right. You're not
and
wrong.
again,
Yeah.
that's where you can't entirely give it like, okay, oh, it's great, it's cutting edge, but you can say, because again, for every moment that's great, you have moments like that where you're scratching your head trying to figure out. So how did
If it was lava, I would have been like, okay, I get it. You're afraid of lava. You got cut in half and almost burned by lava. But
Right.
fire, you have force push. I know you have that in your bag or whatever. You can. Oh, bro. Again.
Well, again, we know that how strong Vader is.
Yeah.
Whether the game is canon or not, we saw in Fallen Order him hold an entire ocean with the Force. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
it's there. And again, if you're strong enough to pull a Star Destroyer out of orbit, you know, you're pretty strong enough with the Force to bend the flames enough to, or lift Obi-Wan up and bring him
100%.
over from the flames. But
there's one thing I do want to see if they do it, and then it'd be like complete. A Vader miniseries when he hunting down Jedi.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That's all I want to see.
Because then all the Jedi would be like, I would say cameos of like some like celebrity or star.
Also,
Or
Vader getting his ass whooped by a few random Jedi in the comics.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Better than
well,
him.
there's that one. I think it's the one I got. I think it was struck from. They redid it with Marvel's Vader comic, but it was before Disney. But anyway, it was I think the Empire or Dark Lord of the Empire volume, I forget, but anyway, he's hunting the Jedi and he ends up getting lured into a trap by a bunch of Jedi, and they
almost beat him.
They jump him. They almost
Rise
kill
of Darth Vader?
Yeah.
Was that
the Rise of Darth Vader book?
I believe so. It's Rise of an Empire or something like that. Or
I think it's Rise of Darth Vader. Okay.
Yeah. It's the one I remember. I bought the physical copy. I had the physical book. Yeah, and but yeah, they jumped him and they nearly kill him, but you know he's like the Incredible Hulk at that point. The more Rey and if you ever read Bane, you'll know where that precedent is from a Sith powers. Like he's got that Rey whenever he gets more angry, more hurt, and that rage, he can channel that and become more stronger.
That's how he beat Maul, but they're never going to play that in the live action because
exactly. Like the
Obi
Vader
Wan kills Maul.
Yeah, I would say in the comics, that's the one thing I would say. It's like the Vader book is really, really good in that respect, where it kind of fleshes out a lot of different things, shows the machinations that he was already going through, all the Jedis he was killing. You know, it introduces Dr. Aphra, which is an awesome character, and so. But I think that's the one thing I would say. It was just like, you know, Obi-Wan gave you just a little bit of taste of the Vader that people I think really want to see, and it's the Vader that if you go ahead and read the Disney era Marvel books, and that's the Vader that you see mostly. Him being OP and freaking just being like his machinations are bananas.
I just want to say one other part that I really enjoyed. Small part, but it's one of my favorite things from those comics, which is Palpatine. And Palpatine always, there was always usually a moment where, especially after they just jumped him and almost killed him, where Palpatine like really takes him to task and is like, look, man, yes, I know there are Jedi still alive, but what can they do? We have an empire, man. And I need you to focus. I need you. Yeah. And so it was good that they included that little scene, because I 10 years after Revenge of the Sith he would have gotten past that a little, but the fact that Obi-Wan came back in and the obsession kicked right back in, and so Palpatine isn't, you know, harsh as he is in the comics and all that, but he still makes it clear. He's like,
he still makes it clear. He's just like, yo, look, dude, That's one dude. I don't care about him, and you care about him, but obviously this is clouding your judgment. Let me know if this is a problem because I can move on from you. That's what I do.
I'm kind of glad we got Qui-Gon at the last minute.
Yeah. I agree too. I agree. That was a good. That was a good little like at the end. That helped bookend it. I think we didn't need to have him any time earlier than that.
Nope.
I thought that on the negative side, Baby Leia was annoying, but she served her purpose.
Was she?
She was kind of annoying.
She's okay.
She's like fine-ish.
But I think that's just the way they used her.
But her characteristics set up who she is.
True.
The original trilogy when she's younger.
Yeah,
and then when she gets older, she's a lot more mature.
Yeah, I like that continuity. Like they really sort of planted the seeds of who she'd become.
I did
now you say continuity.
The holster. I like the holster part. That was dope.
Now you say continuity. Now they've established
that was part of the continuity.
I haven't since the word continuity came up. Another thing, like when Leia does meet Obi-Wan again, there doesn't seem to be any familiarity, like real connection. They had a moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Young Leia and Obi, and they really spent some like quality time, went through some shit together, right? But when you see them together and she reaches out to him on a hologram, there's like no sense of like connect.
I don't think you really see them together. Like
it's very
but
short.
It does the original OG trilogy does suggest that they met before.
Right.
Obi-Wan gives us how they met before.
Right.
But even the original suggestion doesn't really hint that she has, because the familiarity you're talking about would be like a niece to an uncle, right? If you're a niece in distress reaching out to her uncle, even if the uncle had, especially after what we saw in Obi-Wan, hadn't seen her for so long and she's perceptive and all these things, there might be, you would think she would say something to him to just as a sentimental thing, right? Joggle his memory. But obviously we know why that is, and that's
like the holster. The holster. She's like, I still got the holster or some shit like it.
It was very formal. You helped my father during the Clone Wars, and now he needs your help one more time.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we assume that she's talking about the events of 1, 2, 3, which again, we know that Bail Organa would have told her about some things, especially some as she became more involved in the rebellion, things that probably are classified, like, oh, Master Yoda might still be alive, and Obi Wan Kenobi is actually Ben Kenobi hiding on
Tatooine watching your brother.
Yeah. So wait. Another thing. How the hell did Bail Organa find Obi-Wan's lair so easily?
He's nice like that.
Just like that. How did Reva get to Tatooine in like 2 minutes?
Yo, she got there in like not even 2 minutes, like 5 seconds.
Yeah, Obi-Wan got there in like.
Yo,
I mean,
she got there from like I found the hologram to like I'm there. We didn't find a ship. She didn't have no ship there. She got a hole in her stomach, and she was just like, I need to go to Tatooine.
Distance and time on this in this series definitely were not a thing. Because
I had to suspend belief, bro. And you know what?
Luke is in trouble. Luke is in trouble, and Obi-Wan is still on the other planet, just orbiting the other planet.
Fact.
He goes, "Oh, Luke's in trouble."
Yeah,
and he's out, and then he's on Tatooine
in no time.
So
on Tatooine, right at Owen's farm.
Faster than Han Solo doing the whatever run in like 12 parts.
So Pete, I'll let Reva slide with the getting stabbed a few times because she could have healed herself, or she could have went to see Thundercat to get the machine parts put in her. I'll allow it.
Good callback. Good callback. Good callback.
Hearing better than mine.
Good callback. Good callback.
Because I knew the Grand Inquisitor wasn't dead because I seen him in Clone Wars and how he died. True. I know he was still alive. Yep. Some of the things were predictable. I knew Reva was the youngling from the flashback. I was like, that's got to be.
Yeah,
it was too predictable.
Yeah, I think they made it kind of.
I mean, she was the only. She was the only black youngling in that group. So then you see her later. It only makes sense. It only
That's
makes
a great opening sequence, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love stuff like that where it shows you what's happening on the ground. Again, adjacent to the big thing, which we knew what Anakin was doing in the other room.
Yeah. Oh, and they did give a clone Boba Fett flashback to a little bit, nod to the clone trooper.
Yeah, they did a good job with that. I mean, like I would again, it was like we don't need an Obi-Wan show, but we got one, and it was okay. Like,
I'll say this too to tie it up. If they ever bring Boba Fett back in any combat, I need him ruthless.
Amen.
You don't like Muslim Boba Fett?
Man got ate up by a Sarlacc and turned Muslim, man.
To me, Boba Fett is still in that belly. He never made it out. I'm just gonna say this right now. A quick rant. I don't get it. I don't understand the obsession with Boba Fett. He's cool. I like his father better. I'm just saying, like,
the opportunity was there to make you understand. That's the sad part.
Yes.
I think the comics and the potential of what we thought we were gonna get was gonna be dope, and what we saw was
that's true. And I'm not like the biggest Boba Fett fan. Like I literally don't care. But like what we got was very underwhelming, and it was.
But you could have been made to care. That's the thing that I don't.
You're
that's
right.
The thing.
Right.
The opportunity was there to fill in so many blanks and just tell you why the legend is that. Like people, the fact that Boba Fett showed up in like a total of 3 minutes worth of footage in the original series. People just sort of filled in the blanks of the legend of
right.
Yeah.
Right.
But then they write comics about his adventures.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And then also the Clone Wars. He appears on Rebels or Clone Wars one.
Both.
He was solid.
The idea should have been that now you get to see why the legend is who he is. Not his vision quest in
retirement.
Retirement.
It was almost like they treated it as if he just escaped the belly of the you know what I'm saying? Like he escaped it like right before we see him in Mando. And I'm just like, man, couldn't you?
You did not need to give us the kinder, gentler Rainbow Bright Motorcycle Brigade version.
The hipster gangsters.
Yes,
Spike
that was very unnecessary.
Yo, Robert Rodriguez is wilding for that. He was just wilding.
It's season 2. If they do a season 2, needs to be he's stripped of everything, and he has no choice but to go back to the world that he knows, bounty hunting, and just let him hunt bounties.
Season 2 should be a fever dream. It should be a fever dream, and he should dream and remember the times of Mandalore when the Mandalorians ruled the galaxy, and he's one of them. And we see the Mandalore. We see the real Mandalorian.
That'd be fun.
But he's not a Mandalorian.
I know, but he have a fever dream and pretend he thinks he's a Mandalorian. It's a fever dream.
And even with the like you said, with the Katie Sackhoff and all that kind of stuff, like I think it would have been interesting to have a show that dealt with all three of the types of Mandos that are out there, right? Yes. Like
hopefully Mando does that.
Yeah, like Boba is definitely a separate type of thing because he got it from a specific thing. But Mando is a part of the offshoot, and then you have Katie Sackhoff's character, who's actually like the main Mandalorian. So
that's what I'm interested in is a Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan would be that'd be a great series.
Yeah. I would rather see that than honestly. I like the Mandalorian, but it wasn't what I was expecting. I wanted more Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So if I can get a Bo-Katan series that focuses on Mandalore culture and that history, like that real rich. I mean, these guys rivaled the Jedis at one point. Like the Jedi were they were secondary adversaries to the Jedi right after the Sith Lords. Like that's how deep their history goes.
D'Angelo, you watch Rebels, right? What was the chick that was from a ousted tribe? I want to see her.
Sabine. Yeah.
Sabine. She handed the dark saber to Bo-Katan.
So
which wasn't the flavor of the month when she got recognized.
So apparently, the Ahsoka show is supposedly supposed to be kind of like a sequel to Rebels. So they've kind of said openly that they've been casting people from Rebels, characters from Rebels, into the show. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out and what that means for like the Ahsoka show. Like, is it going to focus on fighting Ezra? Is it going to have like
Oh, it
Sabine
has
in it?
to.
Blah,
If
blah,
she's already looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah,
That's everything right there.
Yeah, and Ezra saved her. Ezra
Say
saved
again?
her from Darth Vader.
And I said Thrawn is
yeah.
Ezra teleported her from getting crushed by the building from Darth Vader. So, but we all know Darth Vader lives. So it's like
Grand Admiral.
No, you're right.
Thrawn,
Yeah, that was
the
a great episode.
To happen. Grand Admiral Thrawn is one of the greatest things to happen to Star Wars and Legends, and I'm very curious to see how they continue with that in a live action series.
Yeah, and hopefully they do him justice, because Thrawn to me is, you got, in terms of the Star Wars franchise, villains are top antagonists. You got Emperor Palpatine. He's obviously the top villain in Star Wars because he's pure evil. You got Darth Vader, and then you have Admiral Thrawn. In terms of that legacy, like you go into before that, then you got Darth Bane. It gets more. The list gets bigger, but in terms of the Skywalker and post Skywalker saga, those three. So hopefully, since Thrawn will be having his debut in live action, they do him well, because again, like Josh said, there's only one. He's the only other name in the Star Wars franchise that commands that level of villainy. Like when you hear his name in the sentence, there's some big, crazy, antagonistic shit coming down the pipe. So
I thought he was going to be in Rogue One.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he was going to.
That would have been nice. No, so it wouldn't have made continuity sense, because at the time at that period, by the time Rogue One happens, he's already sent. So the story is supposed to be that Grand Admiral, that they created the rank of Grand Admiral because there was nothing else to give him, and basically what the Emperor tasked him with doing, because there was no other accomplishment for him to do. The Emperor sends him into the unknown regions to basically plant the flag of the Empire in the name of the Emperor. So basically, just take over wherever you touch down, take it over, plant the flag, move on. You're expanding our territory. That's your job.
Which is why the post stories are so great, because he's showing up like, oh shit, the Empire failed.
Yeah,
I don't think
he shows up and he's like, what happened?
Yeah.
I leave for 5 minutes and everything's gone. I bet. And the beauty of it is, in the books, he has no designs on power whatsoever. He just wants to restore the former glory of the Empire.
Yeah.
He's going to install someone who has force powers that's turned dark, or a Sith Lord, and he's going to just be the Grand Admiral. That's really all he wants.
He was a real believer in Palpatine's order.
Yeah, bro.
Like, yeah, that's why I said he's an interesting Star Wars villain, and hopefully, again, they do him justice.
Man, if I just want them to do him like they did in the books, where he comes within an inch of restoring it all. He just within just a bare inch of taking it all back, and not because of anything other than, this is the order that I left things in. This is how this is how it needs to be when I come back. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where it's like, again, Filoni has all that canon in there, so he can pull whatever he needs in there. So I'm curious to see if he does that or not. All right, so wrapping up, we talked Star Wars lore. Obi Wan is the basis of this, but it's really about Star Wars. So instead of saying what we think about Obi, I would say, what do you guys hope going forward? We have Ahsoka on the horizon. I think we have another Bad Batch season.
Season 2.
They haven't really said anything else outside besides Mando. Like, those are the only 3 confirmed things. Like, what do you guys want to see from Star Wars going forward, movies or in TV? So we'll start with Cam. You go first.
Again, move on from the Skywalker saga, or tell those stories of like the stormtroopers on a day-to-day basis and what they were dealing with, PTSD. Like I said, one of the things that appealed to me about Rogue One was we learned about the characters that were talked about and mentioned in lore or legends, or slightly mentioned in the books that are still considered canon by Lucas at the time, especially like the Wills, the Guardians of the Wills and stuff like that. I thought that was cool. Those aspects, those characters are cool. But like the ground level troops, not the glorified heroes, but like some of the people that we don't see. Like that's what, for me, I think more short series like this, going forward, and not retelling what was Obi Wan doing, but like once they get rid of or done with Ahsoka and all that other stuff that's still dealing with the Skywalker saga, I for one want to see something in either in the future, like the Luke Skywalker kids or whatever, Han Solo's kids or something like that, or we go Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
Further back that way.
Yeah,
because that's a whole saga in itself.
Surely.
I would love to see a mini series, Game of Thrones type thing, or if they want to do the 6 episodes, I'm cool with that. And maybe if they do that well enough, I will go back and read some of these legends and canon comics and reading materials to get a little bit more in depth with the characters that I fall in love with or some of these storylines. I like what they're doing with this mini series. I don't need another 2-hour movie with plot holes. I can deal with a 6 episode series of plot holes and illogical writing. But it's fine. Again, they got Mando, they got the animation. All the animation is tough. Rogue One was good in my eyes, and Obi-Wan was solid. Again, it didn't logistically set well with me, but I did like the fight scenes. I thought that was damn awesome. I appreciated it. We got peak Vader, which is awesome. But again, going forward, let's talk about other than Skywalker saga, or go back to the Knights of the Old Republic. Let's talk about them.
Yep, I agree. D'Angelo, what you got?
I 100% agree with what Cam just said. I think it's time to, I understand why business wise why they stay in the Skywalker realm, but I think they're showing that they can even keep the Skywalker stories going, but also branch out and tell other Star Wars stories from Knights of the Old Republic, from you have the Darth Revan. I think Darth Revan as a character in itself would be interesting, and here's a good reason: because Darth Revan is non-binary. Like Darth Revan is neither canonized as male or female. I think some of the stories more sort of tend to push him towards male, but remember that game, he could be either or. So, or they could be either or, and that's how they're identified on the Wikipedia, which is their fan database. So there's this opportunity. Darth Bane. I think if Disney is really going to go towards this platform that does edgier and darker stuff, give us more stories that delve into Sith lore, Sith mythology, so that I think there's a big gap in understanding the relation between the Sith and the Jedi and the dark practitioners of the Force versus the light users or whatever. I think the funny thing is if the more you delve into Sith lore, the more you kind of look at the Jedi with a side eye. So I think that would be very interesting to see how the audience responds to stories that involve Sith mythology and Sith philosophy.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. And that's the most interesting part of it, where it's like, I think if they start to go more in that darker realm and they pull in from that canon, from all this that's been established, there's like the super fun things to work with. The whole Gray Jedi situations, anything from the Knights of Old Republic. Like, again, they if they really wanted to, they could 100% go the Game of Thrones route and just be like, yo, we're doing Knights of the Old Republic. This is people that you never heard of before, never seen before. We're about to do a whole new story that you don't even know. Has nothing to do with the Vader.
Right.
And so I
they
think
still
that
have
part's
lightsabers. They still use the Force.
yep.
And
But it's
blasters and pew pew.
totally different motivations, totally everything else. Josh, what you got?
A combination of Cam and D'Angelo's answers. D'Angelo and I have a very soft spot for Darth Bane. So I would definitely pay money to see that as a series. I agree with D'Angelo with what D'Angelo's. He and I have discussed this ad nauseum. That there's such a massive gap between, you see so much of the Jedi and what makes them tick and what makes them, and you don't really get nearly enough. You don't really get nearly as much coverage of the Sith's motivations. And I agree wholeheartedly with what he said. Like, you learn enough about the Sith, you start looking at the Jedi like, but it's such a good twist of story, because on a level you look at the Jedi like maybe they're the bad guys, like straight up.
Yep.
Anakin was right.
Anakin was right.
Right. That's a T-shirt, by the way. Sold it. I also agree with Cam. I think future stories, like, I didn't exactly love the comic book. What the heck was Luke's grandson? I think was it Cade Skywalker?
Yeah, that was Dark Horse, one of the last ones, stories before it hopped over. The ending was pretty bad.
The end was pretty bad, but the beginning and middle were actually really, really good.
Yeah,
it
was a good example. It was a good example of a great Jedi that was like, equally in the dark and also in the light. And I thought that was actually really good.
Okay, I'll take that back. Give me Starkiller then. Replace him.
Yeah. They really. If you did any of the stories that they give you for the video games
as a TV show, Starkiller, let's go.
Starkiller, Fallen Jedi, the Knights of the Old Republic, the any of the what is it? Those two twins in the Old Republic that are serving a Sith Lord. That's
Knights of the Old Republic, right?
Yeah, is that Knights of the Old Republic?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Because that's the first one you play as Revan.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And you have depending on what you do, you either rule the Sith Empire, waging war on the Republic forever, or you help defeat the Sith Empire.
As a lowly foot soldier.
Can you guess
the one where the game where the little kid is, I think, the Emperor's daughter, like the Old Republic Emperor's daughter, and her mother is light side, her father is a Sith Lord, and he eventually sends her to the Sith Temple to be trained.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that I don't remember what game that is, but
I don't remember either. But I know what you're talking about. It might have been
any of those.
Yeah,
any of those would be incredible.
I think the overall conversation that all four of us are having is like there is so much of the lore that's been made post the original 3 movies that is good, interesting, and fleshes out the world of this galaxy that we all think is really interesting. And
I would pay money to see Tatooine blown up.
And so again, if they actually go ahead and pull from a lot of that canon and add it into it, it will always be for the better for it. I think that's the one thing that I'm more curious about. I think the overall, there's so much stuff. Again, they have the same, I want to say, issue and problem that MCU has, where the MCU is pulling from the comics of literally 80 years of canon, so they can literally pull anything they want and put it into the movies. And now this is the new lore. And so I think Star Wars has that same issue where it's like, yo, you guys have, 40 some odd years of amazing stories by amazing creators. Like, use some of that shit. Because a lot of it is really good and really interesting. And so I think that's the thing that I think at the very end of the day, for Filoni, who's starting to be the head maestro for most of the TV stuff, that's the thing that they can really lean in on, because besides the cartoon CG stuff, there hasn't been anything else outside of that has been as impactful as the canon novels and like some of the Dark Horse like series, like just the freaking Crimson Guard series that they had in Dark Horse that was in the 90s. Like, that was awesome because you got a whole situation of force sensitive Empire dudes that are not Jedis, but they're not Sith, and they're just set in this like right little middle situation about the Empire, and that's a completely different mentality that you get to see. But there's, again, they all have force powers and all that kind of stuff. So I think
all
opening that up,
stuff, honestly, was pretty crazy.
Just opening that up so that like your average viewer can see that it's not just like a very binary, like, you're good or a bad situation. There's a lot of in between, and there's a lot more fun that can be had. And also too, just like showing that there's other like beings that could be force sensitive other than freaking humans. Like there's like they do that in the comics, they do that in the novels really, really well. And I think that's the lost opportunity just to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I think one of the sorry, Josh, cut you off. One of the things that Plagueis did well was show how those other beings often use, like humans, can be lethal in different ways. That's not in just their force powers. For example, Plagueis being what's that? What's the race? What's his race? The banking clan. What a Mun? Being a Mun, he's like 8 feet tall. Like, he's like a giant, and he's got huge hands. So there are times where he's like just like hits someone and just knocks them out because he's so strong. Like, so I think that what the smaller, more grounded stories also allow you to do is like what happens so often in Star Trek, which is you get to explore these alien physiologies and their cultures. That isn't just that one-dimensional. Are they force users? Are they members of the Empire? Are they members of the Republic or the Resistance? So we need more of that in the live action stuff.
I think if you what I would love to see is the new Jedi Order series serialized. It's insane, man. Like, like Cam was talking about earlier, Han and Leia have kids, like, they get married, the whole bit, and one of the kids turns dark. He becomes a he becomes a dark Jedi and just starts wreaking havoc. There's an alien race from beyond the rim. They come in. They can't be affected by the Force in the traditional ways that you're accustomed to. So they can't be levitated off the ground. You can't read their minds. And they're just like, why do you have these light sticks? Like, what's your deal? And they really just could care less about the Jedi. And they're, at least in combat, once you strip the Jedi of their powers, which is kind of the whole point of the series, who's able to, it sort of reveals who you are, and like Han and Leia have 3 kids, excuse me. They have twins, and then they have a kid that they name after, a young one that they name after Anakin. And not to give too much away, but like they murk main characters. Like Chewie dies
all the time. Yeah, all the
Chewie
time.
dies, and he dies like a G. I'm not gonna give away how, but he goes out like a champ. They're the youngest of Han and Leia's 3 kids goes out like a champ. That kid goes out like a straight G. And his death turns his older sister dark. Like, he gets run over by a bunch of aliens, the same aliens that aren't affected by the Force. He's just swinging at him. He's glowing in the Force, and they just overwhelm him in numbers and take him out. His sister sees that happen, reaches out for her brother, and it, as shocking as it is to probably visualize in your head, as she reaches out for her brother, lightning rips out of her hand. She doesn't even try. And she just takes out a whole lot of them and grabs his body. It's just so hardcore. Nobody's well, I wouldn't say nobody's. I think they murk Luke's wife. Like
Oh
people,
yeah. She
like
bounced out
people
too.
die.
Yeah.
And
But
there's
I think,
no like
but I like that
travel
they give it
back,
real
none of that
stakes.
junk.
Yeah, they give it real stakes, and I think
Yes.
that's why I was like surprised that they were kind of like, oh, we're not gonna like honor the books, because I was like, yo, there's so much stuff that's in there.
Yes.
But to wrap it all up, I think in general, all of us are kind of saying that like at the end of the day, there's so much stuff that Star Wars can do, and there's
Mm-hmm.
more that it can do. It's cool that they're doing these little pieces and giving us these little nuggets, but it's like I still am hard pressed to see if they're actually going to swing for the fences. Possibly in Ahsoka, that could be an interesting thing if they do.
They're
But
scared.
they're pretty scared because they really kind of play it safe. So I think that's the one bad thing I would say that Disney's
KK is
doing with
scared.
that. Yeah, they're definitely scared of doing a little too much, because I think there's so much there that could be like pretty crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Once again, everybody, thanks for rocking with us and listening to us rant about Star Wars stuff, because you know how we do. But yeah, this is Blerdlines, and we are out.